also know how to advocate for myself, which is very important as a woman and as a Black woman in this business, right?
Yeah.
Because ain't nobody gonna advocate for your ass but yourself.
For Joy Bryant, her role on ABC's For Life is more than a job. It's, well, life. Fresh off the heels of a successful run on NBC's Parenthood, where she helped to create a Black female character who wasn't based on stereotypes, she's now in the second season of ABC's For Life, a story that takes on social justice in a way that feels very much like the real-life headlines we see play out on nightly news programs. The role is personal to her, and she gets a chance to reconcile personal relationships while bringing this new character to life. We chat. Joy, with Jasmine on NBC's Parenthood, you had an opportunity to help create a Black female character not based on stereotypes, and that felt very important for us to see, but I imagine even important for you in your own evolution as an actor. What was it?
When I was doing Parenthood, I wish that I was as comfortable in my skin as I am now to take advantage of the opportunity they gave us and the freedom that they gave us, because they gave first of all, it was an incredibly well-written show. And they just let us do, they were like, go ahead, you don't gotta say it like that. If you're gonna say it better, do it. Like, they gave us a lot of freedom. Like, the first half of my time on that show, I was still really struggling with a lot of issues and a lot of sort of like insecurities and stuff. And on the second half of my experience on the show, I started to really relax into myself and into my skin and really enjoy the process of acting more than I ever had been. And so that definitely prepared me for where I am right now, especially with this show. I started in 2001, right? So, 20 years.
Yep, I was just about to shout it.
Do the math. I'm trying to do the math. I'm doing the math. And I feel like, one, to be able to say that is pretty incredible to me. And I've learned so much, obviously, about the process, but about myself along the way. So I'm in a place in my life where I'm like, oh God, thank God I'm not still like like I was in my 20s when I first started, and even my 30s. I'm in a much more comfortable place in my life and for myself where I know what I want, I know what I don't want. I also know how to advocate for myself, which is very important as a woman and as a Black woman in this business. Right?
Yeah.
Because ain't nobody gonna advocate for your ass but yourself.
What have you taken from either the experience from that very successful run of this last show, or really with these last 20 years in the business that you have brought into this new experience with For Life? Like, what is something that you kind of immediately carried with you as you walked into this new role and this new show?
Well, one, therapy has changed my life. I've been in, oh my God, I've been in therapy for like almost 10 years.
Okay.
Therapy's changed my life. It is like the best, there's not a shoe or bag or anything that I could ever purchase that would ever bring me is like the best thing I could ever do for myself. And also that I have something to offer other women, other Black women, other women of color who are coming up in the game, that I have a lot of information. I have a lot of advice in things to share. And I don't hoard that, because people shared that with me. I really respect that sister auntie role. You know what I mean?
I do. So much of this series feels very much like a headline that can run in any major American newspaper. Do you find that you've tapped into kind of what we're experiencing right now, whether it's 2020 or 2019, and use that to help build out this character on For Life and this story on For Life?
Yeah, I think that like when we embarked on this last year, we felt that the show was timely then, because of the conversations and the themes that we were tackling on the show, especially involving prison system and criminal justice. And so many of the things that we were talking about on the show are definitely resonating now. You know, if it were 5 years ago, the show might not have made it to, right? Because now you have everybody talking about criminal justice reform, people who never met eye to eye, you know, politically, all agreeing that, oh yeah, you know what, this is a problem, right?
Yeah.
So now, because of that, those conversations, it was easier for a show like this to even make it on air. And because of, you know, people being reminded constantly of the injustices and disparities in the systems, this show is still here. Does it mean, you know, I mean, look, at the end of the day, we're a TV show and we still have to entertain. So without putting too much spin on it, but we're talking about some real shit.
You know, I know that you're still early into it, but how has this role changed you so far? Is it giving you a different outlook on what your life might look like, or the things that you find interesting outside of what you do on the soundstage for this show?
I knew that when I read the script that Marie has a daughter who's pregnant, right? I knew that, right? But I never phrased it as like, oh, she's a grandmother. Right? I didn't say. But while filming the pilot, I'm like, wait, she's a grandma. She's a grandmother. And then a little time after that, I did the math, which I never did before, because my grandmother raised me. And my mother was 15 when she had me. And I did the math. And my grandmother is the age I am right now when I was born.
Oh, wow.
Okay? Because you know when you're young, you see your elders, and you're like, they're so old.
They're so old, right?
I'm 46, but I ain't that old.
Yes, no.
Right? So,
yes.
So I actually, because of this show, I actually did the math for the first time in my life. And I was like, oh my God. And what it did was it started to help me like see my grandmother, whose name is Lorraine Bryant, or name was Lorraine Bryant. She's deceased, as is my mother. To see her not as Nana, because it was always Nana, 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 right? And she raised me. But to see her as Lorraine, the woman whose teenage daughter, pregnant, and now surprises me, and now it's up to her to take the reins and take responsibility. And in a way, the dynamic between Marie and Jasmine, and now Jasmine's child, is very different from the dynamic of my grandmother and myself and my mother together. It was very fraught and very just crazy and sad and unfortunate. But with this character in this role, I get to, it's a very, you know, obviously having a very cathartic experience with it, but with this character in this role, I get to actually heal some of those things, right? Because I can see different perspectives, and maybe if my grandmother was the same as I am to Jasmine, and my mother, you know, who knows? But they're both gone now. I don't really get to reconcile that with them, but I do, because they're still here, right? So I get to reconcile that. So for me, it's very personal. That's what I've received from this part. And then I can put it through my stuff and process it. And that's what I put back into it. And there's a lot of things I've received from this part, but that's a big one for me.
That's a huge one. You get therapy at work in addition to the work that you do in your private space. So that's
right.
Amazing.
And then I go to therapy for real.
For real.
Yeah.
Joy Bryant, thank you so much for joining me today and having this conversation. I do appreciate it.